Hi everybody, welcome back to the Celtic Way YouTube channel, X page and Facebook page. My name is Ryan McGinley, at the Ryan McGinley on the X handle. Tonight I'm delighted to be joined from a very dark Bergamo, it seems like, a very dark Italy, by Tony Haggerty at A Haggerty on the X handle. Tony, how are you doing? How was your flight yesterday? And how is Italy thus far?
Flight was fine, and Bergamo, I can confirm, was a beautiful place. You might want to put it on your to-do list. It's very compact. Everything seems to be in a straight line, which is great for your old day here. Not a lot of navigation problems, but yeah, I'm sitting outside the Gevis Stadium where Celtic will be taking on Atalanta tomorrow night, match day 3 of the Champions League, and having spoken to Brendan Rodgers and Callum McGregor, who addressed the media tonight. Big news being that Cameron Carter-Vickers and Greg Taylor didn't travel with the team, so both of them will be missing for tomorrow night. But yeah, I've enjoyed it so far. I always enjoy Italy. I think it's an excellent country wherever you go in Italy. But Bergamo has it's captured my heart a little bit, Ryan. I have to say that.
I'll definitely need to check it out. Fingers crossed if Celtic play Atalanta in the final of the Champions League, hopefully. Or not in the final, because that'd be in a neutral venue. Ignore what I'm saying. Ignore everything that I'm saying. If they get them in the knockouts, then I'll be going to Bergamo as well, I'm sure. Get that to look forward to, potentially down the road. It looks like a pretty beautiful place from the videos that you were sending me. A couple of them have already made their way onto the Celtic Ways Twitter. I'll be putting out more of them on TikTok and Twitter as well over the next few days, you would say. Definitely tomorrow, as the preview continues towards the big game. Kickoff's at 6:45 UK time. It's 7:45 in Italian time. Is it an hour ahead over in Italy? So before I get into
10 at the minute,
yeah, it's looking pretty late. It's just as dark in Scotland, to be fair, as well. So yeah, we're used to it being dark, that's for sure. Before we get into talking about Cal McGregor and Brendan Rodgers' respective press conferences, just a quick reminder that you can support our work a little bit more by joining our YouTube members channel for just £2.99 a month. You can receive early video access, priority comments, and exclusive members chat function. Click that join button next to the subscribe button. Please subscribe to us. We're only 25 subscribers away from 12,000. Let's get to that 12 total before the close of play tonight, guys, if possible. Thank you very much. Now, the captain was talking to the media. It was a very short press conference, Tony. Was it as short in person for you as it was in the video?
It's about 3 minutes and 55 seconds. Roughly speaking, that rings a bell with me around about that. But yeah, spoke to broadcast media, and I threw in a question myself at one point. But yeah, it was very short indeed, yeah. But he was adamant that lessons had been learned from Dortmund. So it's what myself, Hamish and Kevin were talking about this morning on the morning briefing. You know, words are cheap. It's time to produce on the park, isn't it? Let's see what they've learned. And hopefully they have learnt lessons from Dortmund, and they can bring that to the table, or bring that to the Atalanta clash.
Yeah, the Dortmund result, as things stand, we're obviously doing this live. It's looking a lot better now because they're beating Real Madrid at the moment. I can see someone in the comments was talking about that. So yeah, if they beat Madrid 7-1 or something, then I'll feel a lot better about that last result. Means it can happen to anybody, but you know what I mean. So yeah, Callum McGregor was talking. It was a short and sweet press conference, but sometimes it's better. I think he answered absolutely everything that was asked of him. It was pretty much the message was it's a new game, it's a new sort of time and a new fixture all in all, and they need to right the wrongs that happened in the last game. I know that's going to be difficult. Atalanta are a good side. Everyone's talking about how good Atalanta are, including the manager, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But he was talking. He was asked that it was a tough night at the office last time in the Champions League, but I know moments after you were determined to do better. That's what he told the media. The time has come. How are you feeling? He responded saying, yeah, good. Like you said, it was obviously a difficult night the last time out, but we can't lose belief that we're a good side. We know we're a good side. We came up against a top opponent and we weren't quite right on the night. At this level, that's what can happen. You can get punished. We're determined to put it right, and the time has come. We've arrived here and the boys are feeling good now, so we have to produce a performance on the pitch to match that. Confidence from Callum McGregor, Tony. Is that what he exuded in the press conference as well?
I think it's like everything else. I think both Brendan Rodgers and Callum in particular, they were at pains to point out that Celtic are a better team than their Dortmund display and their Dortmund showing. And I think it hurt the players. Well, Callum was very vociferous. Wow, 2-0 Dortmund against Madrid. unbelievable. He was the one to say sorry in the immediate aftermath of that Dortmund game. He stood in that mix zone and he apologised to the Celtic supporters, and he used the words unacceptable. And it's players hurt when they get torn apart like that and done over like that. And there's a matter of professional pride at stake for a lot of those Celtic players tomorrow, because they want to prove that they belong at that stage, at that elite club level of football. And they didn't do themselves justice, Ryan. And I think a lot of Celtic supporters tomorrow night want to see this team do themselves justice, give themselves a chance to be in the contest for as long as they can, and don't capitulate so easily as they did against Dortmund, and so easily as they have done on their travels in the past.
Yeah, shall we get right into Brendan Rodgers and what he was talking about? I was thinking that we could also talk about our predictions, because we both went for the same lineup. I know that it was live, or it was about to be scheduled for the time you were going to be at the press conference. I presume that Austin Trusty was going to be in your predicted lineup if Cameron Carter-Vickers wasn't there. So I did a wee quick change around just before the publishing date there. But we'll get on to talk about Brendan Rodgers, then we'll talk about those predicted lineups, the same team for the two of us. So he was talking about what lessons that Celtic can learn from Dortmund. And Brendan Rodgers said they're a very good side, a very aggressive team, very attacking. For us, I think it's that compactness in the team that's very important. We weren't tight enough in certain moments in the Dortmund game, and then when you add to that quality that they finish with, we deserve to be here in this competition. It's always important to instill that belief in the players. You're going to have to defend well and be strong in your duels against a team that, in terms of a defensive organisation and how they work, is pretty unique. They're at the very highest level of that. So you've got to be able to deal with that, play through that pressure, but also be really strong defensively. It's the aim we go into with every game, but going into the games at this level, it's even more important. Gasperini, there is a piece on the website today that was put out this morning that talked about Gasperini, and it's a bit of a fascinating read if you read what the last 10 years has been like for Atalanta. It's a small place, Tony. You've been there. It's quite a small area of the world, but they're passionate about their team, and it seems that passion's off the park as well as on it. What are you expecting tomorrow from this Atalanta team, and what's your thoughts on what Brendan Rodgers had to say there, the fact that they're a very unique team in that regard?
He was talking about that man marking that they do individual man marking, but they can break at breakneck speed, basically the same as Dortmund, and they can hurt you. They've got players that can hurt you. My goodness, they've got players that can hurt you. Lookman being one of them, and his strike partner, signed from Genoa. That's the fella. So, and he's a top goal scorer in Serie A at the minute. He got 8 and 8, I believe.
8 and 8, that's right.
So
Statsman Tony, I love it.
Exactly. It's got a bit of research, a bit of homework, now and again. But that's some shooting, especially in a league like the Italian league, where you know how defensive football can, is quite a setup there. So I think Brendan Rodgers is aware of the task that faces Celtic. In a way, you can say that, they are the feel-good story, aren't they, in Italian football in recent season. 10 years or 9 years is a long time for any manager to survive at any Italian club. A lot of them made the point this morning, change after a year, and a lot of them bounce around from Serie A club to Serie A club. But 10 years or 9 and a bit years invested in Gasperini, and he's been given that time to build something. And my goodness, he's built something, and he's built something really strong. The way they dismantled Bayer Leverkusen, who last season was European football's feel-good story, but they were dismantled in that Europa League final, Ryan, and Atalanta have gone from strength to strength. And, Celtic are up against it again tomorrow, but I've got a feeling that Celtic will give a better account of themselves than they did in Dortmund, and I think the players are determined to do that. And the manager said a great thing. I thought he was excellent. He said he's instilled that belief that they belong here. That's the way he picked them up, because he was also asked after the Dortmund game, how are you going to pick these guys up? And, so that's how he's picked them up. He's instilled the belief that they belong here, and he reiterated again that matches like tomorrow night in the Champions League are belief games. You have to go in believing that you can do something, and I think that's that mindset that Celtic have. There was a lot of belief when they went to Dortmund, and that was shattered, wasn't it? But it's still, but Brendan Rodgers said, there's still a game plan there, and they hope that whilst there's hope, you can achieve something. So, as I say, I don't think any Celtic supporter is optimistic about getting a result, but it's from such adversity. Sometimes they can produce the impossible, isn't it? It's mission improbable, Ryan. I wouldn't say it's a mission impossible because Celtic have won in Italy before, but I get that was a different manager and a different team. But they have achieved that before, so it's not something that they're striving to do for the first time.
Yeah, Gasperini and Atalanta are one of the feel-good stories. I would say another one's probably Napoli under Spalletti a couple of years ago. But Gasperini got the time at Atalanta that he didn't get at Inter Milan. I remember when he was the Inter manager. Inter, they're very much results now. With Atalanta, he had a project, and that project has been seen through. For a manager that I believe is 66 years old, he is still very youthful in his ideologies and the way that he plays, and he signs players, and he's got a backroom staff and a board that support him in signing the players that he needs. So when you have that cohesion from boardroom to backroom staff and the coach, then you're going to get results. Brendan Rodgers was talking about compromising, or a lack of compromising, as he would say. He's came out, and I think these have been the quotes that have been circling around the media over the past hour or so. So I'll read them in full because I think it's always good to give the context of what's been said.
Yeah.
So the reporter asked, "You said you will learn lessons, but you will not compromise, will you?" He said, "I started coaching many, many years ago, over 25 years ago, and from the very beginning, my coaching has always been aggressive. And until the day I finish, it will be aggressive. That's how I work. But I'm also respectful that you play against teams at a certain level and certain opponents where you have to really look at their strengths. But I don't tell them not to do that in every game, because I do, no matter what team I'm playing, whether it's in Scotland or the Champions League. It's the level at which you can get punished." So I think it's one where you have to have balance in your game. You have to be strong defensively. There are going to be moments when you can press the game high. There are going to be moments when you're lower on the pitch. And I think the key learning for us has to be when you're in those moments, you cannot go out on your own. We've got a very, very inexperienced squad of players playing at this level. So sometimes you can make little decisions to jump out of your slot and defend and win, when really you should stay, because at this level, you'll get picked off. That's the key for us, but we always have to carry that threat. He talks about inexperience, Tony, and the need to be mature on the ball and mature in the system. It's going to have to be a team game if Celtic get anything tomorrow night, isn't it?
We have to do the basics right, Ryan. There is not one player that could hold on to the ball in Dortmund, which is why they were susceptible to wave after wave after wave of attack. A big facet of playing away in Europe is holding on to that ball, retaining possession of the ball, gaining territory, gaining a throw-in, 40 yards up the field, wingers, taking it for a walk, the likes of Kuhn, Maida, and even Kyogo doing those defensive shifts, starting from the front. But you have to be clever, have to box clever, and you're playing a really good side tomorrow night. Let's not underestimate that fact. But if you can master the basics, which Celtic just didn't do from the off in Dortmund, then, as I say, you give yourself a chance to get a foothold in the game. Celtic never really got a foothold in the game. Dyson made his equaliser apart. There was 90 seconds in between Celtic going 2-1 down. Again, wasn't there, I believe, something like that. So they have to gain a foothold in the game and gradually build themselves into it. But they cannot give away cheap possession against a team of Atalanta's speed and quickness of thought, because they'll get punished again, whether it be in the counter-attack or just cutting holes right through them. It is what it is, but Celtic's basics have to be there, Ryan. You have to defend better and they have to retain the ball better. And they didn't do that in Dortmund, and that's something I guess that the manager and the captain were kind of speaking about, that just have to control the football better and as I say, win throw-ins, win free kicks, gain territory and ease your way into this football contest if you can.
Yeah, that's got to be. And then he goes on and talks about, let me just get the quote up exactly. I have just scrolled past it. I'll go back to it just now. He's talking about his coach's DNA and the need to be on the front foot. and attack as well as defend. If they're disciplined, then they'll get chances tomorrow night, and it's all about taking those chances when they come along, and it's about hoping those chances come along when they're still in the contest and not when you're maybe going for a bit of a I don't know, you're going for a goal that won't matter too much in the context of the tie.
Yeah.
Stay in the tie, stay resolute, and you might get something out of the game. You never know. I want to go on and talk about another player that nearly joined Celtic. We were talking about Declan Rice, I remember, midway through last season. And there's another player that nearly joined Celtic in Brendan Rodgers' first spell. Just goes to show you sometimes you need to trust your manager with these players and scouting and identifying these players. None other than Nigerian winger and current Atalanta legend, as Brendan Rodgers called him, Ademola Lookman, who has been in incredible form for Atalanta over the past few years, including that incredible hat-trick he scored in the Europa League final in Ireland back in May. Brendan Rodgers was talking about how close Celtic were. Lookman was interested in joining Celtic, but and it was down to the fact that a fee couldn't be agreed with Charlton, I believe, at the time. He then got him for Leicester, but then Leicester couldn't sign players because of, I think it was financial fair play or profit issues. He told Lee Congerton, who was at Atalanta, and the rest is history, and he'll have felt pretty vindicated that he went to Atalanta. But it's one of those ones that got away, Tony, isn't it? That you hear about these players all the time.
Add that to the list, but you have to go a long way to see a better hat-trick in a European final than Ademola Lookman's last year. It was a sensational hat-trick, and everybody sat up and took notice of the player from then on, didn't they? If you weren't aware of him before then, you were certainly aware of him after that match against Bayer Leverkusen in Dublin. Atalanta destroyed them. Destroyed a team who had gone unbeaten up until that final. And maybe it was a game too much for them, who knows. But, Atalanta were mightily impressive that night. And, file that under another nearly man to sign for Celtic. And I think Brendan Rodgers spoke about a fee of 11 million eventually, which was a bit too pricey for Celtic back during Brendan Rodgers' first spell. Wouldn't be too pricey.
They've only just spent that.
No. Yeah, it would be too pricey for Celtic now, but you're not going to get Adam Lookman for 11 million now. That would make maybe his right boot or something like that. But
maybe get fabulous game player, Tony.
Yeah, fabulous player. He would have been a revelation at Celtic, and he would have scored a lot of goals and would eventually have moved on. But but it just shows you that Brendan Rodgers can spot a player.
Yeah, certainly.
And you see, Lee Congerton and Atalanta have been the main beneficiaries of that.
Yep, without a doubt. And I think it goes to show you Lee Congerton's expertise at what he does when he's maybe given the funds to work with and the greater funds. Because Atalanta, I'm sure they're pretty well off. Be playing in Serie A, they'll have sponsorship deals, playing in the Champions League, winning the Europa League. They'll have the kind of fees to pay for players. They'll get Coop Miners that was just sold for 40, 50 million. So they've got a bigger pool of money to play with in terms of identifying talent. But signing Lookman, I believe they didn't pay that much for him as well from Everton, I believe. But it just goes to show you a player just needs the right fit and the right background and the right guidance. And he's a Gasperini player, and it just goes to show you.
So I was going to say, the right fit, you need to feel wanted in your surroundings as well, and you need to be happy, Ryan. And see if you're all of the above. It's amazing what players can produce. It's how players can produce at certain clubs and not at others. That right fit, and Lookman's been the perfect fit for Atalanta. We hope that fit goes awry tomorrow night. But yeah, listen, Celtic are in for another tough night. Could be a long night as well. Hopefully it's not. Just as I say, I think the main objective for Celtic tomorrow night is to stay in the contest for as long as they can and prove to everybody that they are better than that Dortmund performance, that was an aberration and a one-off for this Champions League phase. That's my hopes for Celtic tomorrow night, Ryan.
Absolutely, yeah. That's got to be the aim. They've got to make a better account of themselves tomorrow, and really and not allow it to get to that 7-1 level. If they get beat, they get beat, but they need to be respectable and it needs to be a respectable defeat if it is going to be that way. And I want Celtic to fight, and I want Celtic to not. I'm not going to say that they gave up, but some of the goals that they lost in Signal Iduna Park were really, really bad. Tony, will we bring up our predicted 11 that we both agreed upon? This was one that was changed about 5 minutes before the article published. We'd done it ahead of time because we maybe thought that Cameron Carter-Vickers was going to be in the team. Unfortunately, he hasn't travelled. Neither has Greg Taylor, although we expected that. Though we both went with Bernardo in the midfield as well. Engels in the number 10 and Callum McGregor. I've got to be honest, Tony, I was kind of tempted to put Engels in the number 6 role, but I just don't see Brendan Rodgers playing that.
No.
I think Celtic just need to be more defensively disciplined tomorrow. But apart from that, would you agree with? Well, of course you agree with that because it's the same team that you brought out. But just sort of talk about the team that you've decided on.
Both of us have picked that team, and we've picked it for a reason. I think these guys, want to prove to everybody that they're better, and they've arguably earned the shot to do that. And I think the manager, you heard him himself. There is no pragmatism about him. If that's what you want, there's a different coach, he's a different person, he said. So that's
Rodgers.
He is not the manager you're looking for, to misquote Star Wars in terms of the droid analogy. So that for me is the strongest team we could possibly play tomorrow, and at this level, elite club level of football. And you just hope that these guys can step up to the plate in the ways they didn't do in Germany. And in Maeda and Kuhn, you've got speed yourself, you've got players that can hurt the opposition, especially Kuhn. I'm looking for a big performance from Kuhn. He disappointed greatly in his return to his homeland, and I think he's a player that will want to make amends for that against Atalanta tomorrow night. Lots of players I don't say they've got anything to prove. We know they're talented footballers, but I think they'll want to prove to themselves that they belong at this level. And professional pride kicks in, Ryan, after I think the manager said it was it removes your spirit at times, losses like that. So I think lots of fighting talk from Celtic in terms of they're going to be better, I think was the message there than Germany, and we just want to write Germany off as an aberration, and let's go. And there's always hope, Ryan, always hope, but you'd have to be the eternal optimist to say that Celtic are going to get something tomorrow night.
Yeah, but you live in hope, I guess, and we're going to try and remain as optimistic as we can. We're under no illusions that Atalanta are a very, very good side, a well-organised side, and I think that in terms of, and they do have a couple of superstars in their team, but they've also got a team ethic, and I think that's what really shines through. And I think their best asset is their manager. The fact that it's Gasparini's masterminded this team into becoming European champions, albeit it's the Europa League, but they can still hold that candle to their name of being Europa League champions. Is there anything else, Tony, that you want to talk about before we finish off this evening briefing that we were doing? Is there anything that Rodgers said you want to maybe highlight, or anything you want to talk about with regard to Italy in general in Bergamo?
No, as I say, I've enjoyed Bergamo. It'd be great. And I had a peek inside the stadium because I was taking in the bills. They didn't let us film inside the stadium because the referees were training, and that was our instructions, so I couldn't give you the panoramic view of the stadium. But it's a tidy ground. It's very good, and I'll be interested to see what it's like tomorrow when the fans are in and the noise that's generated and created. But yeah, liking the look of it, I'll do the panoramic sweep round tomorrow at some point, and we shall see what the atmosphere's like. We'll sample that, Ryan. But yeah, it's. I'm looking forward to it. I always look forward to Celtic in the Champions League, and it doesn't matter the backdrop going into it and the mood music. I don't care. It's Celtic in the Champions League, Ryan. It's the fixtures that get the juices flowing, and I would just love Celtic to recreate Rome 2019, Stadio Olimpico. I'd love something like that to go down, but tall order.
It definitely is, but we'll see what happens on the night. I'm sure I'll be more optimistic about it tomorrow once it's game day and it's the Champions League. Anything can happen, but we know what Atalanta are like. I've watched them enough times to know that they're a well-organised outfit. Even a couple of years ago when they were playing Manchester United, I believe in the Europa League, it might have been the Champions League actually, but I remember them going to Old Trafford and really giving Man United a bit of a game there. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Looking forward to being on the morning briefing with you tomorrow, Tony, and discussing everything and seeing how you're feeling on game day. We'll also have a very special guest on tomorrow's podcast who will be giving us an expert view on Atalanta, a Scotsman out in Italy talking about Atalanta. So be sure to check that out. That'll be a good sort of meeting up between the two, Scottish and Italian put together. We'll see how that goes, and we'll see how he feels about Celtic's chances in the Gevis Stadium. Is that how you pronounce it? Gevis or
German pronunciation? Gevis Stadium, yeah.
Gevis Stadium. I thought that.
It looks like G Wiz, doesn't it? When you look at it phonetically, it's Gevis Stadium. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I'll remember that one.
That's how you say it.
I'll take the people's word for it, definitely. Just quickly before we end off the podcast, and thank you to everybody for joining us. If you want to support us just a little bit more, join our YouTube members channel for just £2.99 a month. You'll receive early video access, priority comments, and exclusive members chat function. Click that join button next to the subscribe button. Press that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And yeah, we'll try and get to 12,000 subscribers as soon as possible. I'll be checking that number after to see if anybody has taken us up on that, and I'll be telling you off if you haven't done it already. But thank you to everybody that has done so far, and we really do appreciate it. We'll be back on tomorrow morning to discuss everything on the morning briefing, as well as look ahead to the game tomorrow night. Tony, get back to your digs, enjoy the rest of your night, and I will speak to you tomorrow on the morning briefing. Thank you very much, guys, for watching us, and we'll see you all tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Thank you, and see you later.